G'day, this is Brian Witten and ET Art, and today's video we're going to discuss a couple of rocks. It's going to be a short video. Wanted to talk to you about this rock, which is the rock where it all started basically. I had already started making, well, I'd already come to a conclusion that the Earth had been tilted by a comet impact. That is this inserted image here on Google Earth. And I'd seen that whilst I was making a global warming video, so I thought from that point forward people wanted to know, or at least my stepson Benny Boy asked me how did I sort pyramids out and what drove me to that. So I thought we'd discuss that today. I did tell him that I will. I'll tell you, it won't be over the phone. I'll tell you, in person. And you'll probably understand why once I tell you today. Effectively what happened, I'll tell you about this stone first of all. This is Will's stone. It was found in a river up valley here about 30 kilometres away, in a swimming hole. It's probably in excess of 12 foot deep. The actual swimming hole is a pretty big hole. And he came up and found this on the side of that hole and said, "Dad, look at this, look what I found." And I said, well, I'll do an inserted image now so you can see a little bit more clearly. I said, oh wow, that's not Aboriginal, that. I said, that's something different. And I said, take it with you, we'll have a look at it and we'll see what we can find out. We got back to the car and for some reason my son had hurled it back in the river. And it's like, you'd say, okay, well, how come you still got it? This is what life does sometimes. It is an amazing thing. Walking on our planet at times can be really quite an astounding thing. He hurled this back in a river that was probably, I don't know, at least 20 metres to 30 metres wide, where it went back in a river that is probably in excess of 12 to 15 foot deep in the hole where this went back in. We had another flood where we had at least another 12 foot of water above the normal, it had almost gone over the bridge out there. So any locals will know that that's a good 10 to 12 feet above what is normal water level. And that flood took place in the period of between the 3 months where I'd been there when we found this the first time, and then the next time when I took my son back there again, and my son found the very same rock. Okay, and he said, oh Dad, I found the rock again. In which case I said, don't hurl it back in the river this time please son, can we keep it and look into it, because I wanted to find out a little bit more about it. I put it up on a site. I ended up in the end probably, well, I guess probably the best stage from this point is to say to you that my stepson asked me, how do I solve or sort the pyramids out? So I'll come on to that in a minute. The other thing I want to discuss with you today is the likelihood whether this rock is programmable. And that might sound bloody stupid, but we have messages, or at least markings, changing, disappearing, coming back, and I'm not doing it. So I'm pretty sure there are people on our planet that can do lots of things. Modifying this rock in my house is not one of them. Okay, that is not something I think the CIA or anybody on this planet can do. Nobody can modify this rock who comes from this planet. Okay, that's what I'm saying. The technology in this, sorry if I go cross-eyed every now and then when I look at that, but that is the reality of this rock, and I'll show you an inserted image. I am a computer engineer by trade, so there is one image I've got of this, and I would like to put it under a microscope today and show you live, but honestly, I don't know what part of this rock it was that I took the image from, and I haven't got the time at the moment with other things that I've got on my plate to go all over this rock again to find that one image. There are places on this rock where I know exactly where to go to get certain images. So that's the one thing we're going to look at today. Like I said, it won't be a long video. I hope you enjoy it, but before I go on, I will explain to you, as I did with my stepson when he said, Dad, how did you work out the pyramids? What had happened is my eldest sister died, and she passed away. She'd been crook for a fair while, so it wasn't something that wasn't unexpected. She did kick on a bit longer. I was on the way to my youngest brother's funeral with the thought my eldest sister was going to pass away on the same weekend. My eldest sister kicked on for another 6 months or so, and Roger unfortunately passed away with cancer. So we've lost some people, and I came back to the lounge room here after Mel's funeral, and as silly as it might sound, I looked up and asked for another job, because I'd been spending probably close to 18 years trying to have our federal government look into certain things. And when I say federal government, I mean police and state and federal, and etc, etc. I'm not going to go into it and why in this video. Safe to say that that's what happened. I came back to here and I said, I need another job. I've done this for 18 years. I'm not bashing my head on the wall any longer. I'm done with this. I need something else. And as pathetically stupid as it may sound, what happened was the very thought that came into my head said, get Wilson's Rock, okay? And that's Wilson's Rock. So that's what happened. I rang him up pretty much straight away after that thought had come into my head and said, have you got your rock? And he said, no, it's down here with me. And he was in Sydney at the time, so he said, I'll send you a photo. So he sent me a photo of that, and I'll insert it now so you can see what it is. I noticed this line here had 3 marks on it, 1, 2, 3, and this line going across there, and there's a little indentation there. Like I said, I'll do an insert on it, but it was this line here going across here that I realised was in actual fact an imaginary line that goes between Easter Island and the pyramids, and it goes around the globe, and a lot of these megalithic buildings are built on that line. I'm from watching other documentaries and had a vast interest, and have had for quite some time, on the unexplained mysteries on our planet, and watched a lot of work put out by all of the people we know. I was probably on the lines of more of an advanced civilization existing long ago. I can tell you now, on these rocks I'm seeing tidal waves and comets coming over lit cities when you get the light right. I'm going to go through a little bit of that today, give you a bit of a lesson as well to show you how I'm using the light source. We picked a good day too, because it's overcast outside and raining, so I can't build the veranda, or at least finish the painting on the veranda I built out the front here. I built a new set of steps and a deck that my son thought would be a better idea, so I took his idea, and Wilson said, oh, it'd be nice if you had a deck there, Dad. I thought, probably would, so I built one. So we're going to go and look at this, okay, under a microscope as well, to see if there are microscopic images here. I've set my lounge room up a little bit differently here, so we're going to take a wider angle so you can look at what I'm doing. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to move the light source around so you can get better imagery. We're also going to discuss the hardware involved in the acquisition of an image. In other words, the reproduction of it, or the viewing of it, even if you haven't got the good, a good laptop or a good screen resolution available, it really is not a very favourable thing. And if you're really wanting to prove that this exists, you've got to have some reasonable quality in respect to the displays, mostly the displays. It's a cheap microscope. The $30 microscope that I've got is the only one I can produce these images on. If you haven't gone back and looked at all my other videos, I suggest you do go and start at Pyramid Decoded. 9 from 9 was an earlier one before I got right into the pyramid type of things. But yeah, it's really quite been an eye-opener one way or another, especially the day I realised what was on this rock here and how it worked. So some of the things this does is really quite astounding. We'll look at some of those images again today and give you an indication, like I said, just how to move the light source around. So I'll move my camera now and we'll get on with it. I'll be back in a second. Now this is a setup I've got at the moment. I've got this rock, the Tin Tam rock under here at the moment, and This is the area on the rock here where we had, you know, if you haven't gone and watched my other videos called Light and Light 2, probably have a look at, oh sorry, Time and Time 2. Because there were, you know, rocks, I'll insert them probably again here. There were marks that were gone off here, and the marks were Nibiru and a man standing here and what appeared to be, in my opinion, telling me a story about an interception of the comet and direction. I'm going to zoom in a minute. I've actually left this out like this so you can see more of that rock, because I've left the microscope here up higher in the air, so we're not focusing down here. And as you can see, look, here's the rock, and that's why I've set it up this way so you can see everything. I'll zoom in a minute here and we'll get down closer to this, but this is the one where I told you we had 2 black spots here. And I'll do another inserted image now that shows you Nibiru, when it was right there. The man standing there was there, and they had a little triangle thing here and lines going across here, and it was how we found, I'll zoom in a minute and lower this, refocus it, was how we found the comet in the middle of Western Australia, which I will now do an insert again, because that's actually the rock, and where that mark was right there was where it led me to believe that that was the case. Now what I'll do is I'll refocus, move my microscope down a little bit lower, and we will also discuss resolution. We find out things with this rock all the time. I actually put this under the microscope, as you just saw, and I'm pretty sure I captured it in a video just seconds ago, a white line and a mark here, which is where we've had this white line and a dot, where we had 4 originally, was right there on this rock. It seems to have, I just went and washed the rock, but since I put it under the microscope, after having washed it, this part of the rock here, that white mark there, which is indicating the northern comet and the southern comet being the biggest one, and this being the image of South America where it hit here. It had 4 written here, and then we had a slash and a 1 dot. I've just washed it and that just appeared, but when I came back and put this under the microscope I could barely see this, and I've just been sitting here watching it, and it's actually, that white mark there has become brighter and brighter and brighter the longer that rock has sat under the microscope. So like I said, it does some weird and wonderful things. And it is the rock. I'll just rotate this a little bit if I may, and I'll insert an image as well so you can see that it's the same rock. I'll just rotate this around. Excuse me, I know I'm getting in the way, but I've got to put this rock in the right place. So if I let you see me do it, it's probably the easiest way. And there it is there. I will stop. Like I said, he just seems to do what it wants to do. Now we've got all these white lines here. If it's dust, it's not blowing away. I want to show you something now. I'm just going to blow on this rock and we'll just see whether anything changes. These lines here, look at that. That's changed. That was never there before either. Let me just move that rock. I'm going to blow on that a bit harder. It could be just a thread of cotton because I just dried it. And that's what I'll do. I'll have little threads of cotton. If you're going to dry something, see it's gone now, so that's okay. That's all that was. Now what I want to show you here is resolution. On this side here on my laptop, it's not too bad. This is pretty clear. This is atrocious, right? And it's because of the TV. So if you're going to watch some of these things, or be doing such a thing, did that white line just not come back whilst we were there? That's what I mean. It's a programmable rock. You just saw that? If you didn't see that happen, it was not there. That is what happens, okay, with this rock. I I cannot believe that just happened. I'm glad it did, because now you're seeing what I'm seeing. There's no trick there, you just saw that happen. Listen, I don't know what's going on with that. I believe these are programmable rocks. In other words, they can be spoken to. And just as you just saw the imagery change to what they want to see, you know. You just saw me do that. I blew that away. I put it under there. That was not a line of thread. It's just come back. Buggered if I know. But I'm going to show you an image now. One still image on this rock I took. It is from this rock. I do not know how it does it, but I am under the impression, excuse me, I'm under the impression here what we're seeing is a programmable rock. I'll insert an image now. I'm a computer engineer. I've been an engineer for 40 years. The image that I'm looking at here, to me, seems like a CPU. I won't insert it. I mean, I'm not going to put it up on the screen here because I want you to see the quality better. Okay, I cannot believe that. I'm glad that happened whilst I was making this video, because you can see what I'm talking about. You just saw it come back. A thread. It's an amazing thing. Like I said, the two black marks were on this rock. The weekend I got a little bit of a history lesson myself. It wasn't needed. It was needed, so I'm not unappreciative of that information. But there was a black dot here and a black dot here, and we're using it to go across here. So I'll insert that image. Once again, to me, this looks like a CPU. It's exactly what it looks like. I'm not going to, like I said, insert it. I'll insert it rather than have it on the screen, only for your benefit of quality of imagery. And not to mention the telly, as you can see, is pretty ordinary anyway. Far, far clearer here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the light source. Okay, because as much times as I've tried to make it clear for you, it's not always been clear. So what I'll do is I'll stop it now, and I'll just move myself over to the other side of the lounge room, and I'm going to give you an indication of how to move the light sources. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen me do this before, like I said, I do recommend you go back and look at all of my videos. This is the camp light I use, okay, and this is how it all came to fruition. Didn't know about this myself, but I've gone and outlaid for a $1,000 microscope, and you see absolutely nothing. Okay, if you go and look at the one I put up, I believe, called Light. Well, they did tell us a long time ago that truth would be revealed by the light. One wonders what they were talking about. It may very well have been this, because in actual fact, the truth of our planet. Now you'll notice I've turned the light off here, and this is why I've said to you, I'm doing this today because it's overcast and it's raining outside, but still it's nowhere near as good as if you're in a room that's a black room. Okay, you've got to be in a dark room, and your imagery is better. Now when I'm doing my imagery and getting good, if you're up down here real close to the rock and you want to go up and down like this to move it and get the images, you're not going to get what it is you want. You're going to have to move real slow, whereas you can have the light up here. In a dark room you can still move this up and down from this part, you know, and get the angle that you want the light at. Down here, see? So you don't need to be right over the rock like this to get it. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you there. If I go this side now, you'll see that if I get this in the right place, is where I get this bloke. It's really, really, like I said, you're wasting your time trying to get imagery on a device that's ordinary. If you look at the TV here, the resolution is shocking. It is really, really awful. This here is better, but nowhere near as good as my desktop computer. My desktop computer has very, very good, very good resolution. If I did a still shot of, I'm going to take a still shot here and I'll show you what I mean. I'll get one of these little bright spots just to line up. Now I'm going to just take a photo here and I'll show you something. See how this little white dot's coming up here in the middle? If I take a photo, which I can, I'll just check my capture size. That's right. I'll get one of those to come up again. Just by holding this light in the right spot. If I can get it right to come up there, that's the one I want. If I take a photo like that, and bring this up, and I'll do an inserted image for you so you can see the difference. And this is what I mean about resolution. See how these are like this? This is pixelation. I'm going to do an inserted image now, because what you're looking at now is the other way when you do it with a good monitor, okay? So in other words, you're doing a screen capture, zooming in, and look at the difference here between that and what I insert. It's a lot different, isn't it? This is the difference between the resolution of the devices you'll use, like your graphics card. My graphics on here is better than here. It's still ordinary. This is still shocking here. Okay, but if I go and show you these inserted images, you can see it's a totally different thing. It's not pixelation at all. It's actually, you know, when I look at these symbols, well, what I believe these symbols are is I've actually inserted these, I've twisted them around. There was mainly these two images. I'll show you two. This one here, which is one width, or like one square, and this image here, which is two squares. Okay, so the difference with these were that depending on which way you twisted them, you would end up with 4 bits wide. Okay, which is what I actually think they are. You can't see them on the new microscope at all. You cannot, like with a proper $1,000 bifocal digital microscope, you see none of this at all. None of the imagery we're seeing on these rocks, you cannot even see that at all. But the inserted images that you're now looking at are exactly that. They're clear. They are sitting square when the other bits and pieces are running laterally. This is running diagonally, you know. So it cannot be pixelation. And when like I said, if I twist one of these sideways, the one that looks like it's the width of 2, if you twist it the other way, it is not. It's still 4 bits wide. And when I say 4 bits, that's what I'm thinking they are. They are ASCII text written in a format where a dot of light is a 1 and no dot of light is a 0. And if I decode those into ASCII text with a QWERTY keyboard, it's Q/. That's what it come back as, or another one had Q4, Q/. That's why I actually wanted to go and get the microscope, because I wanted these figures to where I didn't have this line in between, because it was difficult to depict where the dots of light were, you know, in the picture. So that's why I did it that way. But I digress. I don't really want to go there, but I just wanted to show you here what happens if you do not have a good graphics card in the reproduction of your images. It really is not as good. External light, also not a good thing. Cut down the light. I could have put something over that and made the imagery better today, but it wasn't a case of that. It was more to show you something, and we've learned something together, because I've come in here to make a video about a rock that seemed to be programmable, and you've just seen a white line there that I seemed to blow away, thinking it was a thread, only to have it come back and appear whilst we were watching it. When I get back here is when I see this. I have had this before, where you can see a man lying down here. I'm not going to concentrate too much on that, but like I said, I wanted to just show you that that is what happens, that you have this, you know, up around here, up here, up here. When I find that I'm in a dark room and I've got white walls around where I'm working, and I can bounce the light off the wall here, and sometimes end up with, you know, where you haven't got that here, you can bounce it off like the light from I've got where I normally sit this would be in my room where I've got you know, like that white stuff that you make kitchen cupboards with. I've built a cupboard in a pantry, or what will be the pantry, just my office at the moment, and it's moving the light around like this, and I bounce it off the top, off the walls, coming at different angles. So be aware that that's what I'm saying here. If you're going to go and venture to do this, these microscopes are only $30. It really is worthwhile to go and prove it to yourself, because it really is an amazing thing. I'm not sitting here worrying about the imagery today. I just want you to be aware that the rotation around here and the light source, you can see how we're getting that light. That's why our imagery isn't as good. That's what you can't afford to have. If I stand over here, opposite see how that happens? And all I've done is stand in front of the window behind me and throw a shadow over the rock. If I was seeking to get better imagery, I'd probably, you know, put something here to just stop that light, okay? You can see that there. Okay, so any ambient light is going to change the image, because you're going to go over here to try and get an image, like here, and then you pull this away and then you've got the light coming in from that, see? And that you can't have. You've got to do this in a room that's darkened for the best results. And some of the imagery you can get is absolutely spectacular. And I haven't really spent a lot of time with this because I've been doing things with the pyramids, and I'm in the middle of writing a book, or if you call 11 pages in the middle of writing a book, it's obviously not going to be a very thick one, but I am in the process of doing that. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. The other thing I wanted to show you is this. Now I've just put Wilson's rock here underneath the microscope. This is the one with the lines on. I'm going to stand on this side just to reduce the light here, and I'm just going to move this in here and show you that in actual fact it's the same thing, albeit it might have sort of a slightly archaic look to it. In fact, the lines, if I move this around like this, it will produce scenes and whatnot. I'm not going to worry with that, because honestly it does take some time to get the light into the right spot. But I just wanted to show you that it is the same. It does have the same sort of imagery. I'll move over here, excuse me, and I'll just get on this side just so I can hold the light in a different spot. And like I said, you won't see very good imagery on this telly, because the telly is not a 4K TV, it's pretty rubbishy. But I just wanted to show you that in actual fact is the case. You can get good imagery, but do not try and do it with crummy graphics, because that's what's going to happen. You know, if I did this on my computer inside, this would be far, far clearer. And like I said, we're in a lit room, so I only wanted to show you how to do this. Okay, how to move this around, how to have it up here. And I have put one called a history in stone, where it shows you how to see and what to look for as to, you know, which angle to come in with your microscope, because there's no point looking at the scene if it's upside down, you know what I mean? And what you'll do is you'll find there are all sorts of manner of things like UFOs, and sometimes you'll get the light into a place like this, and what you'll be looking at, I swear to you, it looks like a place on the planet. I did a rock last night that I took out of a river. I went fishing for a bit of bass yesterday, caught one actually. So I caught a nice bass and released it back into the river. And I picked up a rock that I thought was interesting, brought it back here, slid it under the microscope, and I'll just show you now, I'll insert a picture. It had a river running through a valley, and it's exactly what it looks like. And like I said, every rock I pick up has these things on. You can see where I'm operating this light now. See what's happening here? You can see that you can get imagery by going like this. And this is why I say to you, it's not something I'm going to sit here and go through with you. It's so slight, and you can see, you know. And like I said, I have people say that just some of the images that I put up well, they like pictures, but you know what I'm talking about. You might even see that there looks like there could be a couple of little UFOs there flying along, you know, and if I tilt this up this way, you can see if I come down now I get the light brighter, but I've got to be far more accurate here, and unless you've got a steady hand, it's really not going to do much good, you know, and a steady table. But this is what I mean, it's difficult if you've got to hold this rock and hold that and click the button up here to take the photo at the same time, because it's just really quite difficult. It would pay to possibly invest in a couple of things to support those in, which is why I went and bought a better microscope. I really thought it would be a benefit to me. In the end it was a total waste of revenue. But having said that, it wasn't a waste if it's true in reality that the geologists have never ever been able to see. You can see what I'm saying here with the light coming in from the other side here from the window. We've still got the same problem on this rock, not as much, but if I come over there I'll block that light off, and then if I was up here, you know, like so. So basically I wanted to just show you that's how you do it. Okay, don't be afraid to have this way up here and out here and around here, you know, depending on what it is they want you to see. Sometimes I find the ones where they want you to find tidal waves, it seems to be down lower here. I know it sounds silly, but there are tidal waves. You can have buildings, you'll have one spot in a rock like this. If you haven't gone and watched 9 from 9, the 9 from 9 is not a particularly fancy rock, it's just, it looks like a rock, a sandstone rock, but look what's on it. And as you can see, that's how you do it, okay? Don't be afraid to have this a long way away, and if you've got this whole thing built into a white displayable cabinet, you can actually go like that and it bounces the light off the back of the wall and comes in this way. And so don't be afraid to do that. Obviously it's not going to bounce back off the telly as much, but you can have it up here. You see what I'm saying here? Look how far back you can hold your light source. So that's why I'm not going to do that with you today, because it does it. To get an image, I can sometimes be playing around with this thing for quite a while. Other times it'll be as quick as this, because all I have to do is go bang, like that, slide that in there, and that's probably going to be pretty close to focus. But I know where I can get an image on this rock, and this is how quick it is if you know the rock pretty well and know where it's got to be. Oops. And I only know that because I've had that rock there a few times. And if I just refocus, I'll see what I'm talking about. White line's still there. And I'll move it that way, just a tad. And you can see what I mean there. So if I come over this side, block that light off. You've got to be focused. So like I said, you'll find that what you get is you'll get bright spots like this. This is crummy, honestly, it really is awful. If I come over this side and focus that more on this one here, I'll be doing better. But I'm glad that we at least saw, this is where you get this guy lying back here. He's being operated on. The story I see off the rocks is that the king and queen in this one world government, or whatever it was, it certainly does depict a situation where people were being systematically murdered, or I don't know. To be honest, it actually looks on this rock. I've had this guy here. Like I said, it's a waste of time trying to do this with an open window, but there is a guy in one of my other videos, you'll see it real clear. He comes up there as he's lying back and being operated on. And there's some unusual looking faces, but you can, like I said, that's basically all I wanted to show. I don't know, I'm glad, like I said, that you've seen that white line disappear and come back in the middle of that video, because that's exactly what it did, which is good, because that was the whole point of this. That's where you get that light. If you get that right light, you can get this guy lying back. But like I said, it's a really hard thing to do. You've got to have the right sort of technology to obtain the image. That's a cheap microscope. Do not go and buy a good one. It's a waste of money. And that's basically what you can do. It's not that difficult. And like I said, I get the imagery off every rock in my house. And I could sit here and get really good images off every rock in the house if I wanted to. I've been a little bit busy, and I named my business ET Art for the fact I actually want to go back and do this. I actually find this is, you've got to have patience and some good equipment. When I say good equipment, I just mean not the cheapest. That laptop over there cost me under $300. That was a cheap one that's ordinary. This is not a 4K telly. This was a little bit more expensive. It's an i5 with a better processor in it. But the better processor is here. It is not on the output of the second graphics HDMI here, because the resolution is shocking out of here. Okay, the resolution here is far better. But any dispersed light from anywhere in the room will not give you anywhere near the quality of imagery, nor a sharper image. Okay, so wherever you're going to do this yourself, I encourage you to do it. I'm not holding back here. It's a message left on these rocks is for mankind. It is not for Brian Whitten. So Brian Whitten shares his information. Unfortunately, I share it with people in our parliament that seem to think we're in the year 1820 and not 2020, or almost. Because in 2020, I remember watching the video about us being in space. Honestly, the way these lot, the way they behave, I see us back in horse and cart in another 20 years. Quite frankly, that's amazing. But anyway, I'm glad, like I said, that we've been able to see that white line come and disappear. I'll blow on it again. Well, shall we try it again? Let's do it again and see what happens. See if we can get back to the same part of the rock. Well, that's the same part of the rock. You can see the moisture that I've just blown in there on the rock. Okay. Now, you can see that white line. Look at it, it's not there yet, but that'll come back. I bet any money that's, I don't know if it's a heat thing. It doesn't look like a heat thing to me because I've, we'll turn this light on the microscope. Amazing. Oh mate, I'm not kidding. Is that amazing? That light white line has never been there. We've just seen it disappear and come back twice. Maybe some of it's heat related. One other thing I did want to discuss is these marks here. Okay, because this was important here. I'm going to move over here, and I did want to discuss these with you because there's some good news here. Okay. Actually, it's looking a bit better there. I wanted to just show you, or talk to you, sorry, it vibrates a little bit on this table. It was not a very good purchase for this task. Is where those lines were. You see they've actually just come back now here. Some of these lines have come back in here from blowing. It's not, I think it might be like a heat thing, I don't know. All I know is I wanted to talk to you about these today because the last time I had this rock under here I had the Roman numerals 4, which is indicating the amount of comets that were created after the southern impact, which is the one that tilted the globe. It then went on to create 4 comets that separated the Australian landmass from Asia. But there was a slash there and a dot, and I wanted to talk to you about it, but he's not there anymore. So We'll insert a picture and I'll tell you. It might come back while we're standing here watching it. It looks to me like one of them's coming back. This one in here. This is slash that we've seen before. I don't know, it's like I said, you can see many a weird thing. When I did wash it, this white mark here seemed to get, you know, it just seemed to be getting brighter and brighter after I washed it. But as you can see, Nibiru and all those things that were on this rock are certainly gone. But what I wanted to talk about was this strike. We had a slash and dots here. I'll insert an image and I'll show you, because what I believe that is, we're seeing a slash and a dot. And then what we saw was Nibiru disappear off this area of the rock. So we're saying that what happens is Nibiru doesn't after the long cycle, maybe we're looking at a slash up here being a long cycle and a dot being a short cycle, because Nibiru does not cycle around the sun. It's depicted at the pyramid complex to cycle around an outer planet, and I have said Jupiter in my videos to this point, mostly because Jupiter is a gaseous planet, and I would expect that when the other sun used to be in our binary star system was hurled out through the solar system, that it was captured by Jupiter and it goes round an elliptic orbit around Jupiter, one long cycle, or probably 3,000 years or thereabouts, and another one of about 6,000. We are in the middle of the longer cycle at the moment. And the pyramid depicts another short cycle in between now and then. So I would suspect we might be looking at good news here. You know, the fact Nibiru has gone off this rock could be purely and simply to do with the fact that Nibiru is no longer a threat after the long cycle that we're in and the short cycle we're in. Now, whether that's because humans don't exist anymore, therefore it's not a threat, or that Nibiru is no longer a threat because it no longer exists, I don't know. But the reason I mentioned that is that I did mention to you the only way that I could see these marks going off this rock was if this rock went back in time, and how the hell it gets marks on it and off it. But we've just seen it happen, so and I've been inserted, as I said. I'll insert that image again now. It looks like a microprocessor to me. So that brings us, like I said, to the end of this video. I didn't want to make it too long. I just wanted to give you an indication of what my feelings were with this rock, and that maybe, you know, maybe there are things happening to this rock that are really quite amazing. I'm going to move down again. Like I said, you've seen those black marks on this. They were on there at one point for quite some time. That white mark there now, and you've seen me blow on it and disappear, and then it's come back whilst we've been looking at the rock. So it's still there. The black marks are gone. I did put this under the tap and wash it off and dry it. That's why I thought that might have been, you know, a hair. But it's not, because we've just seen it come and go. Or at least go and come back. I'll leave you with that. Okay. Remember, TV, if it's not a good one, the imagery will be rubbish. My replay videos are fine. That's not a different thing. It's the graphics quality out of the second graphics built into the laptop that will control how good this imagery is. That's pretty hopeless, and that is a pretty expensive laptop. Not hugely expensive. This one here is a load of rubbish. If I put that on there, you're flat out seeing anything. With my good with my good desktop computer, the imagery is far, far, far better. And like I said, never ever work in an open space with open windows, because you've got light coming from everywhere, and the imagery needs light from a specific angle for it to be perfect. Okay, I'll leave you with that today. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of a lesson. And like I said, this rock too, I won't worry about it too much today, but it does certainly exhibit the same sort of imagery that we see here, as is every rock in my home and every rock I've gone and got. And I am under the belief that every rock on the north of New South Wales will have this, and I bet any money this does not happen on any other rocks around the world. The reason I say it, this will only be in the rivers in northern New South Wales, or certainly west of what is the impended impact. So in other words, the pyramid depicts in 3,000 years, the planet will be hurled up over the top of the sun and lose its water and life. Okay, that is what the pyramid says is going to happen, and we've got to get smart enough to get out of that problem. I'm not going to go into the other reasons on the rock at this point. I've made them clear, available in the other videos. You know, if you're pulling imagery off a rock that's got human sacrifice, you know, these people aren't going to put that on a rock for the sake of it without there being any due cause, so to speak. So there is due cause to put the image on a rock and leave it on a beach. I collected off of the beach at Wallaby Point, okay? And like I said, I'm glad that just did what it did, so you can see what I sit here some evenings and go, yeah, okay. And as I said, with the inserted picture you've just seen, I think that a lot of it's probably microprocessor controlled. It might sound weird, but it probably makes sense, because we've just seen that line's not been there. I've never seen that white line there before, ever. It's just happened this morning whilst we've been working on the rock. So I'll leave you with that, and have a nice day. I'm going to go back to writing a book about the pyramids. It's less complicated than this rock. Have a nice one. This is Brian Whitton, ET Art. Thanks very much. Bye bye.